Hey, what's up, everybody? So I'm going to go over masking in Avid using the Animatte tool. So it's in Filters Key Animatte. I don't really use the term Animatte except for Avid, but think about it as masking an image, masking something out, cutting something out so you can put something underneath it. When you are animating, I like to put the layer on V2 and have what's going to be underneath on V1. Just for an example here, let's say this box right here, I wanted to animate out, mask out, that's the term, mask out this box to see what's underneath, put something else underneath. How would we do that? So in Animatte, I would go into effects mode, and you have a lot of different choices here, either a circle or a square, or what I would call kind of the pen tool in Photoshop or After Effects. So what's happening here is I just made the circle, and it's animating actually the reverse. So what you would do here, first thing I would do, foreground swap source, right? And it's making this, in a sense, it's showing what's on V1 is underneath V2. Now this Animatte is actually terrible with the circle, right? I could feather, which doesn't do much because the circle's no good here. So another option in this case would be to use the square tool. And again, I would swap the source. And now, in theory, let's just say this was close enough. You could actually put a 3D warp on the bottom image. Now I'm going to make her smaller in the box and move her position, right? So the Animatte didn't change up top, right? So the shot underneath was moved, and now this is somewhat close. Never going to be perfect because the square does not really match the image here. It's curved. It's not a true square, right? So in theory, what would we do here? And again, this would be so much better to do in After Effects, but we could do it here. And now I have the shot good underneath, and I'm going to use what's called here is the poly tool. And this is more where you are going to click for spots. And I'm going to show you in a second how I can click this even better, right? And again, I'm going to swap source. But one thing you want to think about is being able to see the image better, what I'm keying out, what I'm masking out. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit Control L. I'll do that twice. And what I'm going to do is hit Control Alt Shift. And when I hit Control Alt Shift, this hand comes up, and now I can move to a certain place. So what's happening here is, all right, let's see this. I could tell I want the mask to really be in this point right here. And what I'm doing is I'm grabbing that handle right there. Now I'm going back to Control Alt Shift, and I'll go to the bottom one, and we'll move this maybe a little bit over there. And let's see the bottom right one. See, it's skipping up, right? It's not in a good spot. There's the little handle right there. And one more up, and that's pretty good. So the Control-Alt-Shift gets that hand key pretty big for doing stuff like this in Avid. And then I would Control-K to be back. So let's render that and see what we have. And what happened here was, I didn't notice this before, but there's actually a camera move. The camera, if you see there, pushes in. So in theory, we can do stuff with that with keyframes in the Animatte, but when it moves in here and I have that image right there, that's not bad. That's pretty good. I might feather it by 1 or 2 just to like give it a little bit of an edge. So with the camera move, you can get involved with tracking and acceleration, or you could make keyframes that it starts here. Where's the camera move go? Let's say so the camera move would be here, right? You'd have a keyframe. I'd make this bigger. I'd do it roughly. And you go here, and then you copy that, and then down to here. So the camera, I know this is rough, but and now the camera's moving back, and it follows just like that. Not great. So it can be done. It's tedious. It's annoying. It's not a great tool for rotoscoping, right? After Effects, Mocha, these are tools meant to rotoscope. For me, Avid Animatte is really just used. I might use it maybe for something simple like this if it came up. But what I would use Animatte a lot for in Avid is to make what I would call like video washes for promos, different looks. What you're going to see here is I have this blue background. It has a sapphire chroma effect on it. It's a blending mode called chroma. And underneath it, I put a black saturation color effect. I just took out all the saturation. So the image is black and white. The blue has a chroma effect. So what's happening is this video, in a sense, for me, is a little too blue. It's a little odd. But what's interesting is if I step in, go underneath the blue effect, and I put a circle Animatte on there, what it's going to do is basically I swap the source. So what's underneath is now this black and white image. So it means it's blue outside, right? Let me take the Animatte off. It's all blue, but when I put the Animatte on, it's cutting a hole into it so it sees black and white underneath. And now this image, to me, is a little more palatable. It's not completely like this ridiculous blue all over the case. That middle being black and white makes a difference. This shot's not so great because it makes him look blue. In other ways, I've used this before. It does. Here's another one. Same thing with a lot of different layers on it. But again, that Animatte right here is what made this image, right? So I had this background. I had this moving background. I wanted it on the side. So I put a big circle Animatte on it. And now you see, you know, say this is like a looking back or a true crime type of thing. You see this image on the outside. Imagine it could be smoke or something like that. And with the Animatte and with a huge feather on it, which I'm sure I have, right? Yeah, 31 feather. That's a big smoothing out feather, right? If you had it like this, obviously that's going to look really pretty lame, I guess. Maybe there's certain uses to have it, like you're looking through a peephole or something. But for the most part, for me, that's a good thing to remember. Animatte, you probably should have a decent amount of feather on most of that stuff. One more thing, if you want to adjust points, which I don't, drinking beer is fun. Working with these little points is not fun. But you could go to these 3 tools right here. Say we wanted to cut out the host of the show for some reason and make him a ghost or something. What you could do with these points is you see this button right here. This will give each individual point that you can adjust accordingly. And you can actually turn on this rotation tool and rotate it as needed. Maybe helpful in a certain way. Make it bigger or smaller using this button right here. So some useful tools for it, and then you could slide it and move it and stuff like that. So these 3 tools are kind of helpful, I guess, when you're cutting different certain things out. So the other tools in here, I'm not going to really go over because even for me, I don't really use them. You really want to, you know, if you're going to be rotoscoping and masking and doing stuff like that, you want to be in After Effects. There's even this thing called the curve tool, which I don't use, but in theory, I could draw around a person. It's too tedious and it's not accurate enough. Same thing with the tracking tool. I don't really use any of that stuff. You want to use the right tool for the right job. You should do it in After Effects. I guess that's my rant on the Animatte tool. A good, quick, easy way to mask in AVID. Not that accurate, not that great, not that professional tool, especially for rotoscoping or real seriously interesting masks. But speaking of great things, I'm going to drink a lot of great beer this weekend, including one of my new favorites from Otter Creek, Daily Dose IPA, and it's not that expensive, which is really good. If you're brand new to AVID and you want to learn from start to finish, go to avidbeer.com. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.